is up, friends? Rob here, the Medicare minister, and I'm back with a brand new Speedy Fire podcast. I got my man Christian Brindle with me today. Christian, say what's up to everyone.
What's up, everybody? Rob, thank you for having me. You got an awesome show here, and I'm just excited to be here.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you for being so generous with your time today. But before we dive in to Christian's story and some of the principles that he's going to share with us today, as always, I want to remind you to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe below so that way you're alerted every time we drop a fresh interview like this or whenever we drop other content on our Monday motivations. All right. So Christian, thank you once again for being here. And I'm excited to dive into your story today, learn a little bit more about you. I know we met in person for the first time last month at our Behind the Agency.
Yes, sir.
Really loved meeting you and getting to know you. But if you don't mind, for our audience, give us that intro. Tell us where you're from. Tell us what industry you're in. Tell us a little bit about your story, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. So I'm from Sandy, Utah, which is a suburb right outside of Salt Lake City, Utah, born and raised. And I am in the Medicare space, in the Medicare sales industry, same as you. And my background is, I grew up here in Utah. I had a dad that was in the business for 25 years before I even got started.
Okay.
And kind of similar to Justin a little bit, I think we kind of, I think our starts were kind of similar a little bit with that. Definitely some differences in kind of how things were set up, but with the businesses and how our dads actually worked with us. But, I started when I was 20.
All right.
And at that point in time, like I mentioned, my dad had been in the business for 25 years. And so I did not really know what I wanted to do with my life. I had went to a semester of community college and I just didn't feel like I had any direction. So I dropped out. Just felt like it was a waste of time, a waste of money. So I just completely punted that. And then, I was just kind of like floating around, just trying different things, little thing I don't think I've ever shared before on camera is, I had been kind of experimenting and doing acting, and I was invited to do a Disney internship in California for 2 years. And I ended up turning it down because after really thinking about it, I just didn't really think that's what I wanted to do. I just didn't really think I wanted to do acting, but I tried a ton of different things. Like I tried to do stand-up comedy. I was bad, so I didn't continue. I tried all kinds of stuff. And my dad was like, you should come work with me. I think you'd like it. You like people, you're a people person. You should give it a shot. And I kind of begrudgingly got into working with him. And that's a little bit of my intro and kind of how I got into the business.
Yeah. And that's interesting that you bring that up, and we'll just stay here just for a second.
Sure.
I think so many people are scared just to try things. So
Yeah.
What was it about you that you just said, you know what, I'm going to try different things, and I may not have the right direction or know exactly where I'm going. I call this taking massive imperfect action, right? That just takes some steps, some action. And it's interesting how, even if it's how imperfect it may be, that it ultimately brings you back to the place where you need to be.
Yeah.
So what was it about you that caused you to take all those chances, or, do all those tries, if you will?
Well, I've always been a person that I've never been afraid to try something. Like if I get an idea in my head, I'll get really excited about the idea, and I'm very eager to try it.
Right.
And I've always been that way. I'm still that way in my business. I'll hear an idea that I feel like we can implement here, and I'm just very eager to try to implement it. That's why nowadays I'm going to all these conferences. That's why I'm coming to Medicare Con. That's why I'm going to Behind the Agencies.
Sure.
Going to be at 8% next week. I just want to soak in those things because that's kind of what keeps it interesting and fun for me at this point. But I've always been that type of person to where, like, I've always looked at things from the standpoint that I would rather try something and have it not work out than just wonder what happens if I tried that.
Dude, you're spitting some fire early, man. I love that. And why do you think so many people struggle with that? Is it the way they grew up? Is it just people told them, don't take chances? What do you think are some challenges for people, why they struggle in that area?
Yeah, it's a tough question, but if I had to guess, I would say I think people are afraid to look bad if it doesn't work out. I think people are afraid to fail. I think people are afraid of maybe the embarrassment of it
Yeah.
if anybody sees it. Like nowadays in the social media world, like if someone's trying a new project or they're trying out a business or whatever it is, it ends up probably on social media. I don't think people have a lot of restraint
Sure.
from
Yeah.
not
Right.
posting it. And I've always looked at it like if you really take something seriously, you should post it anyway. Put the pressure on yourself.
Right.
But I think pressure is a good thing. Pressure breeds diamonds. And so, but I think that's a lot of it. I think people
Yeah.
don't want to put something out there because they don't want people to look down on them because they might look at them as a failure or a quitter, or if it doesn't work out, they just have this doubt in their mind. And it kind of, I feel like they have the doubt from the beginning. And that just really just ends up being a big analysis paralysis. And then they never actually get one foot in front of the other.
No, and I love what you're saying, because I think a lot of times, I love what you said about, I don't want to live the rest of my life wondering, what if that idea, what if that one try was that beginning of something just successful in my life, or just this new version of me. I was listening to a social media influencer being interviewed by one of my favorite life coach guys named Ed Milet. And they're
Love
huge
Ed.
social media influencers.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how he went to Iraq when he first started. He came back and he had this PTSD. He had all this just stuff going on from the war, but he took it and started using it on social media, just being authentic, being real. He was even being silly, just things like that. And now they're getting like 250 million views plus, like on some of their videos.
Wow.
So I think the other thing is, people don't realize that although people do make fun and hate, and you're going to get trolls, we've all have them, right? The reality is people are also looking for authentic and real. And they just want to know that you're just not this perfect glossy person. And so I love what you're saying, that you were willing to take chances because you didn't want to live your life wondering, what if that chance was that breakthrough that I needed in my life?
Yeah, for sure. And I look at it like this. I remember, I think it was Justin said, I was listening to an interview Justin did probably a year ago. I don't know why this pops into my head, but I listen to every interview Justin does because I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
And he's been like a big brother to me,
Sure.
like as I've tried to figure out a lot of this social media stuff. But like, I think someone asked him about me because I had talked about him on the same show, because I was on the show. And he said, he's like, one thing I'll say about Christian is he's not afraid to try things.
Yeah.
He's not afraid, to get in front of the camera, to talk, to speak.
Right.
And I feel like that's probably something that has been a muscle that I've really had to work on over the years. But like, I just kind of look at it like, if it's something that scares me, I just need to do it anyway. I just need to kind of push through and do it anyway. And I feel like a lot of people think that, guys like you, guys like me, they feel like we don't have any fears. We don't have any insecurities. And on the outside, Rob, you might do a great job of hiding those insecurities and those fears, but we all got them.
Yeah.
Especially when we're starting something.
Yeah.
And they need to actually understand that we all have that feeling. The difference between the people that get from point A to point B and the people that don't are the people that just kind of push those insecurities into the back of their head and just keep pushing forward. Yeah. And they do it anyway. And then you get more comfortable as you go.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Even with this Spitting Fire, it's relatively still brand new, but was just really inspired to do it at 8%. I'll be there next week. I look forward to seeing you again and connecting with you again. Likewise. But I kind of shelved it because AEP and kind of use it as an excuse a little bit. Then went to Medicare Con and people were like, man, we want more content. We want more videos. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to stop making excuses and just go for it. And I'm like you, I don't want to live my life 20 years from now going, what if that was the breakthrough that would make an impact in people's lives? You know what I mean? Yeah, and so I'm not scared to try things. I'm not scared to fail because I believe in failing forward, right? Yes. That I use it as a platform to get to the next level. I don't take it as, oh man, I'm a failure now. Just because you fail doesn't make you a failure. That's just one little event or instance in your life. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. Like, I look at it like you're only a failure if you quit.
That's good.
But just because you weren't successful right away, like if you try 3 times in a row and you don't progress, but then the fourth time you do, you still won. You still succeeded at it. Like, so Matt Temin was at our office a week ago,
Okay.
2 weeks ago, something like that. He was in town. He came to the office. He did Taco Tuesday with me and Glenn. We went to dinner. Like, we spent some good time together. And he was telling me a story about how when he first started selling Medicare, his first 25 appointments, he whiffed on all of them.
Yeah.
Like 0 for 25.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. I was like, that's insane. Because I mean, looking at who he is today, I mean, him and Josh Lustig are the most amazing 24-year-olds I've ever met in my whole life.
Yeah.
And so, they're certainly way farther ahead of me when I was 24, and I was in the business when I was 24. But like, I look at it like, if you look at a guy like Matt, using his example, people might have looked at him at the time, be like, oh, well, this Medicare thing's not working for you, Matt. You should just keep doing final expenses. You should just keep doing life insurance. But he just kept on going for it, and it worked out for him, and nobody can look at him today as a failure because he didn't quit.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that. The interview that dropped today with the guy, do you know Will Schaefer? Do you know Will?
I know the name.
Yeah.
I know the name. I don't know.
Well, Will is an under 65 health expert guru, and his interview actually dropped this morning on our channel. Nice. And he talks about he made 200 phone calls before he made his first under 65 sale.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, how much fortitude and resolve do you have to go in one day, not in multiple days, 200 phone calls in one day. And man, that just moved me to think, how many times have I quit? And all it was just one more phone call that I needed, or one more little piece, taking action. And my breakthrough would have been on the other side of it. But 200 phone calls, let's just be honest, most people would have quit after 20. But
right. 100%. Like, it's one of those things where, you could be a foot away from gold and you never know it.
Right.
Like, the next call could be the one, and maybe somebody stops at 170.
Sure. So real quickly, and I want to talk about some success things here, but tell us a little bit about your agency in Medicare. You got your own agency, you got agents, what kind of production are you doing? Do you mind sharing some of that real quickly?
Sure, certainly. So kind of when I got into the business, I was essentially contracted under my dad. Mm-hmm. So I was one of my dad's agents. He brought me into the office, and I'd always worked really hard. The thing for me when I first started was what I was taught to do from my dad was how to cold call. Mm. So the first 3 years of my business, pretty much the extent of my marketing was cold calling.
Okay.
So that's brutal,
yes.
Right? For anybody that's done it, like anybody knows, like that's brutal. Right. But I got really good on the phone by doing that. It really, like, I feel like it's probably one of the least efficient ways to build an insurance business, looking back on it with everything I know today.
Sure.
What it did for me, though, is I feel like it made me a ninja on the phone, like, because you deal with every single situation. Like when you're used to cold calling and then somebody hands you a lead, you're like, oh my gosh, like it's like, it seems like a laydown,
right?
Like in comparison. Because cold calling is really more or less just calling people out of a phone book. I mean, it's no different than that. Like, and so by the time I was 25, when I got into the business, I was 20, I was almost 21. So within 4 years, I from really just cold calling, I was making a 6-figure income in renewals. Wow. I could have done that, I feel like, a lot faster if I was spending money on my business, buying leads, but I didn't put that together at that point.
Yeah.
But really I had no overhead at that point. So that was like an interesting thing, and so kind of what happened from there is I started trying to experiment. I was like, there's got to be an easier way to do this, right? Because my model was I was cold calling, I was making appointments, people turning 65. I was calling Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday if necessary, and scheduling appointments for Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then I was driving to people's houses. Sometimes I was driving hours, to get to certain places. And so a lot of windshield time. I wasn't doing anything over the phone. I was doing exactly what my dad had taught me, what he did. Because he built his business in the 90s and early 2000s. And that's kind of what the model was. And I was like, there's got to be an easier way. So I started to kind of just, poke around at different things. Over time, I learned how to do things over the phone. I don't go to any houses today. I think I've gone to one house in the last 12 to 15 months, something like that.
Sure.
And it was a client that I really liked and I wanted to see her. So like,
Right.
that was the only reason.
Right.
But I mean, nowadays what we do is we do almost everything, probably 60% over the phone, 40% here in the office. We have people come into the office that are in the area. And kind of what happened over time, is I started to do a lot of content marketing. So I started doing a podcast about Medicare. And there was only like 2 other podcasts about Medicare at the time. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work, but I feel like it's kind of untapped. And I tried doing that in 2018. And I remember my dad told me, he's like, no one's going to listen to that. He's like, what are you doing? He's just kind of negative about it.
Yeah.
And today, 3 years later, we have 250 episodes.
Wow.
We get leads every single week calling our office looking for me. And it's gotten to the point where, we have to have other agents deal with some of the leads. And so the content marketing has been a huge part of my business. So from publishing books to the podcast that still airs every Monday. We have a YouTube channel now for consumers. We have 2 YouTube channels. And so the content has been a big driving force to increasing our production. I was probably writing 200 apps a year for my first 3-4 years just on cold calling. Now our production has gone so much up because not only are we putting out content, but I'm spending a lot of money on my business. I'm investing into my business. So now we do a lot of marketing. We do a lot of branded direct mail. We do Facebook ads. We do digital marketing. We just spend a ton of money the last 3 years or so. And it's really kind of catapulted our business. On the agent side. Oh, and I was under my dad for a long time, actually. About 2 years ago, my company, it got to the point where my company was making more money than his. My company was making more revenue than his. I had more agents than him. And so what we ended up doing is now I lease the office space from him. And we traded places because I couldn't keep growing and be under him anymore. I qualified for higher contracts than him. So we switched places. Now he's under me, which is kind of a weird thing that sometimes. But and in terms of agents, we now currently have about 80 independent agents around the country in the downline.
Nice. I'm a firm believer, man, that the more impact you make, the more income that will follow. And it sounds like you really just begin to sow these seeds. You're making an impact in your podcast, 250 episodes, making an impact on your YouTube channels that you have. And it's amazing. So many agents or so many entrepreneurs just in general chase income, but never really focus on making an impact. And if they'll just make an impact, like truly, like sincerely make an impact, the income will be there. And it sounds like you've seen that in your own life, in your own agency as well.
Yeah, I think it's become a huge driving force for what we do. We created the Facebook group, 6-Figure Medicare Agent, about maybe a year and a half ago now. And it's just exploded. But really, what we did was, I was inspired by Medicare gurus. I was like, what a cool concept, by just giving.
Yeah.
And people will want to do business with you. People want to do business with people that educate them.
Yeah.
And so I really grasped onto that concept. Really, I created the group in the first place was because we started a YouTube channel that was called 6-Figure Medicare Agent.
Sure.
And it's done really well. We just started monetizing it. But really, I had these videos I was putting out on this YouTube channel, but I felt like I was stepping on all the other group owners' toes by posting them. And some of them I had a problem with it. They thought we were being too self-promoty, and I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
So I was like, we just need to start our own group.
Right.
I didn't think they would turn into much. We almost got 3,000 agents in it now. And so it's just kind of exploded, but it's just everything that has helped my business has been being willing to give without necessarily asking upfront in return. Like I think for the Everything Medicare podcast, the consumer facing podcast, I think I've consistently put out episodes for 6 months before we ever got a phone call.
Yep.
And I felt like I was wasting my time for months.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And it's the thing, everybody wants to harvest with minimal effort. And you got to plant, you got to plant, you got to sow those seeds. And there's the divine principle, whether it's your faith. I believe it's God, but some people it's the universe, whatever you believe, it's a divine principle that if you will sow abundantly, you will eventually reap the harvest abundantly. And that's what you're seeing in your business. So let me shift a little bit here. Tell me what your definition of success is. And I have a reason for asking, but tell me what you believe success is. I believe it's subjective. I believe everyone has a definition and what success really means to them. What would you say it means to Christian Brindle to be successful?
I mean, I think to me, I look at because some people will look at it as, financially, some people will look at it as spiritually, some people will look at it as, abundance in relationships and families and friends and things like that. I look at it as an abundance in everything, right? I look at it like, financially, money is no issue, right? Like you don't have to worry about money. That is a big part of it for me. Like, I feel like I personally believe, I've heard a lot of people over the years that will, try to be like, well, I'm rich in experiences, or I'm rich in this. I'm like, but if you're stressed out about the leaking roof, right, or your mortgage or something like that, like you're not really fulfilled.
Right. That's
good. I don't feel like you can really get that. I mean, and this is going to sound terrible, but I feel like to really get that fulfillment, like in the business world anyway, you have to play the financial game. You have to play it and you have to win at it. But you don't want to be alone, miserable, play and enjoying those successes by yourself either. You want to have great relationships, family. I have a wife and little girl. She's 2.5 years old. And so they fill me up, from a happiness standpoint.
Sure.
And I feel like it's an abundance in every area of your life. I don't believe that you have to pick and choose different things. I think that you can design your life in a way to where you can be successful in everything. So my definition of success, kind of a long-winded answer, is being fulfilled and winning in each category of your life that's important to you.
And that's a great point, because I agree. I think that we can have an abundance in everything. And you know this just as well as I do, that it takes work, right? In every area, every area, whether it's with our wives and our kids, or whether it's in the agency or whatever we're doing, each one of them requires us to sow into that and to hone that and to sharpen that. And so, no, I definitely agree with that. So let me ask you this. Has your definition changed from the first time you really begin to think about this entrepreneur thing to 2021?
Great question. I love that question. I think it's probably changed multiple times over the years. Like,
so give us some of the progressions, the evolution of Christian Brindle's definition of success.
Well, originally when I first started in the business and I was starting at zero, my big dream was I wanted to make a 6-figure income. I was like, that's it. Because I remember before I got insurance, I was in an MLM.
Okay.
And I was 19 in an MLM, and we were selling healthy energy drinks. That's an oxymoron, but that's what we were selling.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember the guy that was like our leader, our upline. He lived in California. He used to fly out every 6 months or so. And I was only in it for 9 months. So I think he came out twice while I was in it. He flew out and he slept on my couch in my apartment one time when he flew out. But he would come out and he'd be like, I'm making $3-4 grand a month residually. And we were all like in awe of that. We're like, oh, we're all like working jobs and everything like that. And there was other guys that he would tell us about that were above him that were making 6-figure incomes. And some were making multiple 6-figure incomes. At least that's what they said. I mean, we don't know, but you know how MLMs are.
Right.
But,
I do. I've been in plenty of them, so I understand.
Yeah. And so for me, when I first got in the insurance business, I had this vision, this view. I was like, okay, if I can just make a 6-figure income, that I'll be good. I don't have to worry about money. And that was my original kind of target. And that's really like all I thought about for a while. Once I hit it, then I was like, oh, it's not really that much money.
Right. Yeah.
And, and as your business grows, your expenses grow, right? Employees, I've employees now, I have payroll, I have, marketing, all kinds of stuff, that we pay for now. Now we're spending 6 figures on our business,
Right. Good.
And so it's just gotten to the point where, like, as the business grows, the expenses grow, the needs grow for more revenue. And so my view has really been night and day compared to where I probably was at the beginning, when I was a wide-eyed 20-year-old that didn't know anything about insurance and I was trying to learn it. But I'd say it's probably changed a multitude of times over the years.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point to bring up here for all those that are listening, is that as you mature and you grow, because let's be honest, many of us, it starts with the income. Well, if I could just get to 6 figures, but then you get to 6 figures and you're like, wow, I mean, it was hard, but really not that hard. So now I want to go for higher 6 figures, right? Multiple 6 figures. And then you realize that you can get to 7 figures and so on and so forth. But it's interesting how you mature and you grow and you begin to work on you and you begin to evolve, that definition of success evolves and grows. And I said to say this, I get asked this frequently, is I love the money. I'm not going to lie. I've heard people say, I've been happy broke and happy rich. And it's definitely more fun to be happy rich, or, have money, I should say.
Rich is much
really
better.
I get the greatest joy seeing my agents and seeing other people really thrive. It brings me great joy to go, man, this is the first Thanksgiving they were able to pay for everything, or this was the first family trip they've taken in forever and they wrote a check for it all. You know what I mean? That does something to you and brings great joy that you've made that kind of impact on people's life. Have you seen that in your own life as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I think that, when you're able to work with an agent and they really just, it clicks for them and they really start to put the pieces together, you see how their life changes, right? And they get so excited when, their second year comes and they start seeing renewals pop in, right? Like if they're getting advances, of course, but, and it's just fun. It's just fun to see them grow and evolve as people. Like, I think, so our expectation this year for AEP is I'm expecting our group to be able to do 1,500 to 2,000 apps. That's kind of our target. And so I'm just so excited for some of the new agents that we've been able to work with. And I'm not taking on as many new agents anymore these days. I just can't. But there's a couple that I really have, really enjoyed working with and getting to know. And I just wanted to take them on and take the chance on them. And I feel like, their growth and their journey, and they're so excited for AEP. I think they're just going to knock it out of the park. And it's so fun to see somebody be like, they call you up on a Saturday and they're like, I wrote 5 apps today, or 6 apps today. I'm like, great job. Way to go. It's just this feeling of abundance, and I'm real big on abundance. And I think our industry is so unique and so special because everybody can win simultaneously because it's such an underserviced niche.
That's right.
And we're not really in competition of each other. Just because Rob is doing super well doesn't mean I can't do well, or vice versa. It's just a fun thing. And being able to see those agents grow, knowing that, you're growing with them, they're growing with you. It's just a fun thing. It's really unique. I don't think you see it in many industries.
Yeah. And it's a great point. And that's what I love what we're doing here, is that with Behind the Agency, one thing I love about Justin is he's just been fully transparent. I mean, he divulges everything, people are so shocked, like, whoa, I can't believe, he
told me that.
This. But he just has an abundance mindset. We want Christian to do well. We want these other agency owners to do well. We want to share about bundling and other things that we do because it's made such an impact here. And like you said, it's a scarcity mindset to be, oh, Christian's my competition, he's going to hurt me. But it's an abundance mindset to say, man, there's plenty. There's plenty to go around. And so I love that you have that kind of mindset. So just a few more things here. And once again, man, thank you for your time, bro. I'm
my pleasure
that you would come on. But I asked this question, everyone that comes on the podcast here. If there was one word that you could use to describe yourself, what would that one word be?
One word. I would say, it might sound cliche, but I can't think of anything that probably fits better, but ambitious.
Okay.
I think, I'm very, very, very ambitious. Like I don't need to, but I work like a freak. I work like 80 hours a week year round outside of AEP.
Yeah.
And so I just have a very, very large hunger because I want our business to grow and I want our business to be a great business.
Yeah.
I want it to be like an iconic agency. That's kind of what I've been kind of aiming for at this point. And I know we have a lot of work to do, and there's so many things that we're always getting better. We're always learning new things. We're keeping up with trends. And but I'd say for me, the main word that comes to mind is definitely ambitious, because I am, I'm locked in all the time. I have a hard time turning it off.
Sure. No, you're hangry, man. You want more. That's good. So you've kind of answered it a little bit, but the part B to that question is, how has being ambitious helped you get to where you're at today? Is that just never settling, never quitting, just never thinking you've arrived? Or can you expound on that just real quickly?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's helped me get to a place where I'm not complacent. And I think that has been huge, because it would, I could have been at a point where, let's say the company was pulling in 250 a year. We had maybe one employee and very little overhead, and we just cruised, but on cruise control. And I could live a great life, and I'm not complacent with that. Like, I just don't want that. I want us to be in the 7 figures in revenue. I want us to be in the multiple 7 figures of revenue. And so I think the ambition in me has caused me not to get complacent. And I've seen agents too, and I know you have too, where they'll come into the business, they'll just crush it.
Yeah.
And they'll get to a point where they're making maybe $125, $150, 200, and they'll just take it easy. And they'll be like, I'm good.
Yeah.
They service their book of business. They take on the occasional referral. They go on a lot of vacations. That's not me. Sure. I just got back from vacation. I went on a really short vacation to Florida last week with my wife. That was my first vacation that wasn't work related in probably 4 years. Not that that's healthy, but it's been a while. So I think the main thing it's helped me is just not to get comfortable, not to be complacent. I always feel like I need to catch up to other people, not that I'm really feel like we're in competition with anybody, but I'm just like, well, I want to get to where this person's at, I want to get where that person's at. It's like a healthy, friendly, respect for that person or that organization. I'm like, okay, we can, I'm like, they're doing this. There's no reason why we can't do this too. And so I'd say that probably would be my best answer on that.
Sure. So as we close out today, different people are watching this. I mean, as I told you, my podcast, I'm interviewing people from the home-based business niche, primarily insurance, because that's what we do, and connected with a lot of leaders like yourself, but just entrepreneurs in general. What are some words of advice for maybe that person that's, this close to just stepping out and chasing their dreams? What is some advice that this version of Christian Brindle would give someone who's maybe just starting out, whether it's in the insurance business, whether that's just, real estate, whatever the case may be? Do you have some wisdom and some advice that we could close this out with today?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would say probably the biggest regret I have in my business was when I started, I was always working full-time in the business, but I would get distracted very easily. I would try to find like side hustles and different kind of like other things I could work on. Like for about 4 or 5 months in my second year, I think I was driving an Uber. Well, I'm like, why am I doing that on the weekends? I'm like, it's stupid. I'm like, I could be, if I wanted to work so bad, I could be off selling more policies and make
that's great,
infinitely more money. And so, and then, my second year also, I got in another MLM. I had a friend that could talk me into getting it, and it took a ton of time away from the business. Like, it just detracted. Right. So my best thing, and this is what I tell new agents too, is if you want to do whatever your business is, don't let any distractions get in your way. And I'm not talking about your family or your kids. Spend time with your family and your kids. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you feel the need to do a side hustle, like, that's just a stupid term to me.
Yeah.
Like, and to me, I think it's just dumb. I think you should be putting everything you got into your business. And I feel like if more people did that, we would not see such a high turnover rate with businesses.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I know it sounds on paper having side hustles is a good thing, but when you only got your associate's degree in the industry that you're in,
Yeah.
You don't need to be looking at side hustles until you got a PhD in what you know what you're doing, and then use the money that you've created to have some passive side streams. I see so many agents, and even in my own life, I get that shiny object syndrome. And listen, I've sold every jungle juice, berry, that's, was going to turn me into the Hulk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Type deal. So I get the MLM part, but listen, man, thank you so much for coming on today, dude. You were really spitting some fire. And I know people are going to be encouraged by this, and it's going to put fresh wind in their sails. And guys, please like this once again, please comment, please share this with someone that you think needs to hear this today. There was a lot of gold that was dropped to this episode. And make sure to subscribe. I can't stress that enough. Make sure you subscribe so that way you're notified every time we drop fresh interviews like this with Christian and who's a leader in our industry as well as in other industries, people that we interview. So listen, God bless you. Make it an awesome day. It's your choice to have an awesome day. Make it an awesome day, and we will talk to you guys soon.